everyone. Welcome to today's webcast, Choosing a Data Viz. My name is Laura, and I'm a business intelligence and analytics consultant here at Thorogood. Today I'll be joined by my colleague Brendan Lundquist, who will be helping me take you all through the content for today's webcast. So here's an agenda for today's session. We'll begin with a quick intro to Thorogood and who we are, and then we'll get into the value of data visualizations and technologies, considerations and classifications, finally some use cases and demos, and then finally wrap up with some next steps. For those of you who don't know Thorogood, we are an independent global professional services firm who specializes in business intelligence and analytics strategies, solutions, and services. We are a global company with offices in London, Boston, Philadelphia, Singapore, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Bangalore, India. All of our consultants are trained in the same way to develop a unique mix of skills, blending business understanding with strong technical aptitude and a deep understanding of analytical tools and techniques. We offer a full range of BI and analytics services, including strategy and roadmaps, requirements, designs, implementation, and training and support. In terms of the technologies that we work with, as I mentioned, we are an independent consulting firm, which means that we don't work with one specific technology. Here you can see a variety of partnerships as well as many which encompass some of the technologies that we'll discuss today, such as Tableau and Power BI. I will touch more on these key technologies that we see in industry that many of our clients use for dashboard development a bit later in this podcast, but just wanted to mention this here so that by working with numerous technologies in the industry, it allows us to choose the appropriate tool depending on a client's specific situation. So to start, I'm going to touch upon why visualizations are important and what you should be focusing on to get the most value out of your visuals that you develop. So what is the actual value that you can get out of the development of a data visualization? One of the main values is the ability to explain your data. Companies often purchase large quantities of data that are often incomprehensible without a visual tool or aid to supplement and explain what the data is saying. By organizing your data and incorporating visuals into data analysis, you are able to simplify these larger sets of data and understand nuances. Visualizations also allow you to identify patterns in your data. So building up your data inventory and catalog creates the opportunity to detect outliers and identify areas within your business that are doing well and those that might need improvements. These identified patterns further allow you to build out forecasts based on trends in your data, and then ultimately allowing your data model and analysis based on these trends to develop reports that can influence company decision-making. But how does one actually create a well-developed visual that can provide these four values? What are some of the items of importance, and what are those that we need to be cautious of? By enabling data accessibility, eliminating misleading representations, and combining visuals to enhance narratives, the ability to achieve these 4 points on the left-hand side that I have here becomes a lot more tangible. Enabling data accessibility kind of encompasses two areas, one being a little bit more obvious in creating readable and to-the-point visuals, and the other being the ability to create buy-in from your user group in which the dashboards are for. So this should involve being mindful of the level of detail in the data that the user group would be concerned with, as well as including the users within the dashboard development process. Eliminating misleading representations can range from appropriately choosing the correct visual type based on your data classification to making sure that all relevant data is accounted for and utilized so as to avoid making any conclusions prematurely. And then finally, combining visuals to enhance a narrative. By utilizing and combining different data sources that your company is investing in, you can often make a lot more accurate and informed visuals, which can ultimately lead to better decision-making with a greater return on investment. So attention to these three key areas is pretty crucial to create visualizations with enhanced value. So now that you are aware of some key points on how your visual can obtain value, I'm going to explain a bit about the types of technologies that are helpful in this space, as well as some considerations to make before choosing a visual. So there's a host of different applications and tools out there that can help you create and use visuals. A lot of organizations tend to begin their journey using these tools that you see on the left-hand side, like Excel or PowerPoint, just to make quick ad hoc charts and tables that would be easy for the viewer to quickly understand. These tools are good for creating standalone visuals for one-time use, but don't work quite as well if the report is going to be viewed by multiple audiences or will need to be updated over time as you obtain new data. So tools and applications such as Tableau, Power BI, Click, and others that you see on this right-hand side have become the leaders in the BI and data visualization space due to their ability to create interactive and more complex visuals that are easier to use. There are many different considerations for choosing the best technology to suit your organization's needs, and there's also a lot of resources out there to help guide your decision on which application might be best. So before getting started with the actual development of your visuals with one of the tools that I just mentioned, it's pretty important to spend some time understanding and discussing a few considerations surrounding the content as well as the context for your visuals. The first being having a general understanding of all data that is available to you. So this includes exploring the data that you're planning on using and answering questions such as what are the fields within the data, what level of granularity should your data be being reported at. Beyond that, time should also be spent exploring what other data sets might be available to you that you can also use to enhance those visuals. Further steps can be taken to transform your data. So by cleaning your data and applying ETL processes, you can make it much more accessible as well as consistent for both current and future data sets. So when new data becomes available, you want these transformation processes to allow for consistent data ingestion for ease of updating data sets behind the existing visuals that you already created. So it's then important to spend some time defining some business questions. It's often a user's first instinct to start just creating visuals, but to do so effectively as well as efficiently, it's crucial to understand the questions that are important for your visual to answer. And then finally, you must clarify who the visual or ultimately maybe a dashboard is for. Without this sort of critical thinking, it's often difficult to create buy-in from the user group for who of which the visual is for if it's not highlighting the key metrics that that group would be concerned with. So by taking these steps before your actual visual development, it can save you both a lot of time and effort in the redevelopment of visuals, as well as guarantee that the visuals that you are creating are adding value to your business. So now we can talk a bit more about the actual development and types of visuals that you can build. There are four kind of main different classification types of visuals: quantity, relational, distributional, and proportional. So quantity type visuals often represent information that is not necessarily related, but it can be broken out into categories in a visual such as like a bar chart here. Relational visuals compare information in which there likely to be a correlation or a relationship between the measures or dimensions that you're looking at. Often these visuals include scatter plots, heat maps, just some examples of displays that you can use to view this data. When you have data in which you want to see how certain variables are distributed, you would want to explore the different types of distributional visuals. So these include histograms, box and whisker plots, density plots, or even if you have geographical distributional representations. And then finally, information that would be included within proportional type visuals would display information regarding how some group makes up a portion of a whole, so some group that adds up to 100%. Examples of these include donut charts, stack bar charts, and tree maps. So it's very important to clarify what category here your data fits into in order to make visuals that make sense graphically and do not cause any confusion because of an ill-fitting visual selection. So now that we've discussed some of the different visual types and scenarios in which you might choose one type of visual over the other, we'll go into a bit more depth on the process that actually goes into the actual development of a visual. So we will highlight these 3 points here that we discussed previously on how to actually get value from your visual, and then walk through some use case scenarios. So in this first use case, I will be explaining how to enable data accessibility in your Data Viz and walk through a use case on how to target a specific audience. So as we mentioned earlier, enabling data accessibility encompasses kind of more than just creating easily readable visuals, but goes beyond that and includes developing visuals that are actually pertinent to the user group in which the visual is for. So there are a plethora of metrics that say an analyst would spend their time kind of sifting through, looking for trends. These analysts would spend time writing various queries, investigating things, populating certain insights and tables. At the manager level, these individuals are not as concerned with the same level of detail that the analyst may have been looking at. Think about the frequency of use and how the timescale may vary depending on types of insights. So for example, a manager may want to look at overall trends over a longer period of time versus the analyst might dive deeper into like a certain time instance. And then finally moving to those at the executive level, they often have even less time to analyze the information put in front of them. The goal of a visual for an executive should be to kind of highlight the key performance indicators and important metrics that could lead to higher level decision making. So no one static visual should necessarily be able to tailor to the analyst, the manager, and the executive, as the roles that each of them play are very different within a business. So in creating a visual, the goal shouldn't necessarily be to create an all-encompassing graphic that can answer any and all business questions from any user, but only those that are specific to the audience in which the visual is for. So knowing your audience is one of kind of the first and arguably most important steps to creating an insightful data viz. In this first use case, I will take you through the types of data and level of data at a CPG company that different roles such as analysts, managers, and executives would be concerned with. So for analyst roles, these are typically, as I mentioned, people are interested in the lowest level of detail within the data. In this case, we have the breakdown of a specific marketing field by advertisement campaign. So these include looking at things like sessions, total clicks, users, new users, all broken out by advertisement campaign. So these are all important levels of information that the analyst might use to kind of dive deeper into certain trends and then explore the answers to more detailed questions, such as like, what is it about the email in campaign B that is driving the largest number of website sessions? So coming in the manager level, for these manager type roles, these users are a bit more interested at the data at a less granular level than the analyst. So here we have a table that is more concerned with sales data and the data broken out by product type, such as deodorant and shampoo, which then rolls up to a product segment. So while the analyst is more concerned by what marketing tactics might be driving these sales, the manager is more concerned with what product and product segments are performing well and which are not. These types of questions that the manager might ask based on this higher level view would then be able to be answered and addressed by the analysis the analyst previously made. And then finally, those in an executive role are more interested in a higher level of detail than the manager was. So here we have all products rolled up into major categories such as beauty, cleaning supplies, food and beverages, rather than the specific product breakdown. The executive is more interested in which categories are performing well in sales, the percent change in sales, as well as the overall profit. So this higher level view, which the executive can kind of see quick areas of the business that are doing well and those are not, which then provides them direction to the necessary questions to then ask the managers and analysts who even know more about the data behind this view that they would then be able to answer. Creating visualizations for different audiences can be challenging, but knowing and understanding the different roles and what the audience is interested in beforehand can really help assist you in the creation of these visuals. So for the second use case, I will be handing it over to my colleague, Brendan, who will be taking you through an example on eliminating misleading representations in your data.
So now let's talk about eliminating misleading representations within your data. So this can include a wide range of things, really including smaller visual choices like choosing appropriate scales for your graphics, to even combining visuals in a dashboard to really tell a complete story. A visual that uses the right graphical representation but may seemingly come across as a bit simpler is always better than one that may incorrectly represent that data, even though that particular visualization may look a bit more complex or sophisticated, right? Even before you choose that visual type that fits your data, you must first determine how you can inform someone to accurately answer a business question. So for my next example, let's think about what sort of data collection that your company has invested in. How might each data set be relevant to your visual? it's really difficult to make these sound decisions based solely on one data set. Just in this scenario, I'm just going to walk you through an example showing how, this knowledge of multiple data sets, or seemingly the lack thereof of this knowledge, could affect an answer to a business question I will pose. Let's assume that company X, as Laura mentioned before, has already invested in online display advertisements and has obtained a lot of different kinds of data on user interactions with their various advertisements, whatever they may be, right? So the business question that company X is trying to answer is, which display advertisements should they be focusing on and continuing to focus their marketing spend on? So by pulling this marketing data onto this visual, we can really see on the right here, which displays like the number of clicks each of the company's particular advertisements that they are sort of putting out have received. And looking at this visual alone, it's pretty clear that advertisements B and C are obtaining the most user interactions or user clicks. Again, based on just this visual, if one's going to answer the business question, it might appear pretty obvious that company X should be focusing their future marketing spend on rerunning these advertisements B and C. Company X also has data. Again, maybe you purchase your company purchases this kind of data where you have data directly relating to the sales made from a user clicking on a specific advertisement. So by incorporating the sales data alongside the marketing data as the gray circles on this viz, we can see that advertisement C and D actually have the highest sales associated with it, while advertisement B, which has the second highest clicks, has the lowest conversions and thus lowest sales associated per click. So now looking at this more encompassing and holistic view, we can really see the conclusion that you would have made on the previous slide may not have been the most accurate or most informed answer to your business question. So this second view will really create more avenues for further analysis and further data exploration with the need to really investigate and dig a little further on what is really driving your users to make a purchase on advertisement D that may not be happening in advertisement B. But also, what does advertisement B do that is increasing the number of initial user interactions with this advertisement that could possibly be improved upon in advertisement D? So as you can see, bringing in a second dimension to this visual really provides direction to certain areas of focus that you can then dive deeper into for further analysis. And then finally, let's say we can also bring in some internal expenses data and really compare that against what we've already incorporated with marketing and sales. And from this view, we can see which sales from specific advertisements are actually giving a solid return based on that coloring in a circle there with that legend. So taking a look at this visual now, advertisement C, in which we originally concluded had the most advertisement clicks as well as the highest sales, is actually not getting the return or the profit that you really want due to the expenses that were incurred to actually run this advertisement. Whereas advertisement D and E cost less to run, and although we're only bringing in the second and third most sales, are actually are quite profitable. So this visual, again, creates even more direction for areas of analysis to understand where advertisement costs should be reevaluated and to see if there's really any areas to reduce expenses on advertisements with high engagement in order to actually return a profit. So as you can sort of see, none of these visuals are really incorrectly represented, right? The way in which each has been created provided definitive details and insights into the data set that it represents. However, in the context of this business question, the answer that you're going to arrive upon in the first visual is going to drastically vary from what you're going to have in the third visual. So yeah, in the first visual, it shows an accurate representation that advertisement C has obtained the most clicks for users, but by incorporating your other two data sets, your answer to that question is completely different. So yeah, even though advertisement C is causing the most user interaction as well as generating the most sales, it's not profitable. So this means that company X is already investing a large majority of the marketing spend on this advertisement, but not really getting what they want in return. So this brings to light other questions that the viewer or the business user may want to explore. How can we reduce costs in this advertisement and perhaps focus their spending on other advertisements with higher sales, that could in turn lead to higher profit. So once you've created these different visuals, combining them into reports is the next logical step in this progression. So tools like Tableau and Power BI will really allow you to create dynamic and interactive dashboards to house all of the visuals that you've created. So this really allows you to have some enhanced analysis so you can drill down into different levels of data and identify trends through cross-filtering as well. So let me flip over to Tableau real quick to give you guys a quick look at what I'm kind of talking about here. So here we have an example dashboard from that same CPG company X, which is combining visuals with a lot of different information that are pertaining to sales and expenses, broken out by, products, product segments, and product categories that this company X plays in. So starting at the top, we have our 3 KPIs with total sales, expenses, and profits. And these will just, jump out at the top of the dashboard. If you're looking for quick information based on your sales, expenses, or profit, you can just look up top, and that's kind of where you're at. We then have this visual on the left-hand side, which allows company X to track their sales against their goals for each product segment. Bars colored pink obviously indicate that the sales of the product segment are performing below their goal, while those that are green are performing above. That view is good to see. Again, you get that quick view, the colors there, the visuals there. You're able to get that quick analysis, that quick insight for your segments versus the goal. The sales by category visual on the right side includes that detailed information pertaining to your sales, your cost, your sales goal, and your profit for each product category. So a bit different, a bit less granular than, say, your product segment, but still another great, categorical view of your important KPIs that you're interested in seeing. So, and lastly, we have that sales trend by segment on the bottom, which will track your monthly sales over the past year in a stacked area graph to really, again, see that trend, say, over now including a time dimension. So to dig a little deeper into this, just having this dashboard present is quite useful, because not only am I able to see in April, I'm able to see the breakdown of each segment for each of my sales. So I can easily see that brand loyalists here will have, sales of over $3,000, and chemical-free segment is having sales of over $12,000. I can really get a good look of that, that complete, that cut of the data for that month of April. What's also really cool when you have a dashboard like this is that cross-filtering and then dynamic capability that will really allow you to get even more, in-depth analysis, right? So looking at, segment, for example, I can simply click on this particular visual, and not only will it highlight this segment to really give me a good idea of how I'm performing with respect to my goal, but will also bust out your different sales trends by segment, and you're able, and you would have noticed as well that as I clicked on this segment, my categories here changed. So these sales goals, cost, profit, all these KPIs are with respect to my product segment that I've filtered on over here. The same could be said for chemical-free. So just simply selecting on this particular segment, I can get a quick look into each category that chemical-free segment, product segment plays in, and get a look into those metrics real quick. And that's not to say I can't do the same for category as well. So if I wanted to see how my beauty category is performing with respect to my different product segments, I can easily see, how the sales are performing with respect to their goals, with respect to their, their trends by segment over the past, quarter in this case, or past year. It's really all there for you. And if you even want to take this report, you want to print it out, you want to, just highlight this, put it in a report to share with someone else. You can quickly say these were our sales, expenses, and profits for cleaning supplies, given these particular sales goals for our segments, and this has been a trend over the past quarter. Using this dashboard, right, it really enhances your analysis, because you can see all these different values across multiple visuals rather than looking at each one individually, and it really gives you, again, that really holistic, picture of the entire business story that really allows you to answer different business questions, right? So what does this overall process look like to create a dashboard like the one I just showed? So at Thorogood, with our clients, we use something called the iterative dashboard methodology, and this really encompasses some of the same types of activities that Laura and I have mentioned in this webcast, but to put it in one slide, it sort of begins, again, with defining those business concepts. So like we addressed earlier, this is really the first and probably most important step in creating a visual that can provide a lot of value for the business. So you want to make sure that you're aware of these concepts and questions beforehand so that when you begin development of your visuals and your dashboards, you're really creating value and visuals that provide value, right? So after that, it's sort of, we attend something called an inspiration session, and this is really a session in which dashboard developers, business users, your data subject matter experts really can come together and discuss what they would like to see and information that they would like included within their actual dashboards. It's basically just like a brainstorming and organizational session that will really provide direction for the dashboard developers in creating that first cut of a dashboard. And then for Thorogood, we get together with our clients for these first 2 steps, and we gather information, and we create that first draft of the dashboard. And after that first draft has been created, we adapt and evolve that dashboard too. So it's not only just one go of it and we hand it off to the business for quick use, but we cycle through these rapid iterations where we are constantly communicating with the client's business users and the SMEs, in which we can just collect a ton of feedback and, again, evolve those dashboards to get more feedback, reshare them and review them continuously until we can finally get a product in which we can roll it out to production for use by our clients. So this process really isn't important just for us to make sure that the dashboards are in a useful or accurate final state, but to really create buy-in with the business users, right? Because they're the ones that are really going to be using this final product. So it makes sense that they're involved throughout the entire dashboard development process. And from experience, right, this methodology has worked very well because, again, it's going to provide the value directly to your clients to not only guarantee that Thorogood is providing this information at the level of detail that they would want to see, but for also those business users to gain familiarity with the dashboard's functionality so that they're eventually comfortable and ready to use the tool to answer those business questions that they want answers to in the final version of the dashboard. Again, thank you for all your time today. Please feel free to reach out to Laura and I if you have any additional questions. Thank you.